Get the Intel, the podcast meant for those of us trying to find out what the hell is going on in the field. Here, we discuss tools, techniques, and approaches that you can implement to streamline operations and let you focus on your craft.
All right. Hello, Chad Gill here. I'm the host of the Get the Intel podcast, where I talk with leaders in the contracting, management, and really anyone helping us do business better. This episode is brought to you by Workforce Recon. Workforce Recon is a project tracking software that connects the office to field crews. Their app, Field Recon, is built with a field-first mentality. Developed by contractors for contractors, it includes time and asset tracking, messaging, job documentation, and scheduling all in one place so you can see what's going on in the field. So if you're tired of finding out what happened days later, check us out at workforcerecon.com and see your operations in real time. So today, joining me is Piyush Patel. He's the founder of Dream Big and best-selling author of Lead Your Tribe, Love Your Work. Piyush has become an innovator in the corporate culture, and as he grew his former company, Digital-Tutors, into a leader throughout the world of online training. Piyush has worked for Pixar, Apple, Ford, NASA, and many more. He's been featured in Inc.com, Forbes, Fast Company, and TechCrunch. Basically, Piyush is a whole lot smarter than me, so we're going to ask him a ton of questions and see if we can stump him.
Let's do it.
Also, so Piyush, thank you so much for coming on, man. I saw your talk, and just really motivated to kind of take what you had and apply it to some of the issues that we run into.
Definitely, very, very much excited to be here with you, Chad.
Thanks. So, before we get too started, the thing that I remember about your talk the most, which it probably wasn't the target of it, but I love this idea. If you can just tell me a little bit about the new Employee T-shirt. I just thought that was such a great way to be innovative.
Yeah. So, for us, I think the employee journey starts well before their very first day. And statistically, if you look at the research, one of the most stressful days is their first day, right? Like they've entered this brand new tribe. There's all these cultural norms that they have no idea, what the inside stories are and the jokes and things like that. So they're truly an outsider. So what we do is we ship them a box full of just lots of goodies, all their paperwork, and a T-shirt. And it's a little note that says, wear this on your first day. Well, we send that memo out to everybody in the company of, hey, remember that first day shirt? Wear that today. We've got a new person joining. So when the minute they walk in the room, they're like, oh, this is my tribe. Look, I've already got the uniform, right? And I deal with creative people, so good luck trying to get a uniform on any of these folks. But T-shirts, they love T-shirts, so we just hand them out like they're water.
And that is fantastic. And it kind of gets to the idea, why is culture such a big thing for you?
For me, and for any organization, it really boils down to the X factor. So, I own 12 different companies, and I can tell you from a winery to a software company to a restaurant, at the end of the day, it takes great people to make a great business. And with enough money, I can recreate anybody's business, but I can't recreate their culture. That's really their X factor. And so when you are focused on the culture, focused on, hey, how do I leverage what I'm creating here to be bigger than just the sum of the pieces? To me, that's the real X factor. And when companies dial it in, they're just unstoppable.
So I agree, and it's tough. But when I hear culture, I think benefits and perks and ping pong tables and unlimited PTO and a lot of these soft things. But I'm in construction. I'm an engineer. We did good if we could make a friend in school. What does it mean when you're trying to put that rubber to the road and something that's like you have 12 companies, so I can't say, well, construction is different. That's a common mistake. Business is business. Business
is business. And I think ping pong tables, food in the fridge, that's not culture. That's just perks. That's just stuff, right? And I think what on the surface, a lot of companies do is like, oh, we'll add a ping pong table. And what we're going to show is if you go play ping pong, well, we won't fire you. So that's a perk, right? It's our culture. Not really, right? At the end of the day, an organization is in place to accomplish one thing, and that is to make a profit. So we teach that on day one. We teach, hey, how much do you have to actually make for the company to cover you? And I can't tell you how many young people we hire, and they're like, well, if you pay me $80,000 a year, you got to make $80,000. I'm like, nope, that's your take. You're taking that home. I got still taxes, insurance. And they're like, oh, okay, double what you pay me. I hope that was true, but the reality is you're not going to produce for a while. So somebody's got to carry your load for a little while. So really it boils down to 3 times your income is what you've got to generate in value, right? If you're a support role or if you're a producer, you got to produce 3 times what you take home to make the company just work. And once you teach people the rules of the game, everybody wants to play, right? How do I quickly get there? We just gamify it and have fun with it.
That's awesome. And that's a great way of pointing, kind of teach that value to them, because we did something similar. We're just even trying to tell guys in the field, what it takes to replace a roll of tape that gets left in the truck. And that's $4. But it takes a whole lot more. If we're at 10% profit, I got to go do $40 worth of work and then spend all of that profit to fix that one roll of tape.
That's right.
And then when you scale that out over bigger numbers, it grows. That's right. How do you balance, and maybe it's because of having a wrong view of culture, but how do you balance, how do I make you bought in, committed, understanding, and a team player, but don't cultivate entitlement or even spoiled employees, which, I feel like I'm that old guy that's saying, man, they're spoiled in my day. We did it for, whatever. But it's hard to get around that when you feel like you've kind of been burned on it.
Well, a lot of people, when they talk about entitlement, really what they're talking about is narcissism, right? So I'm worth more, I am more valuable, thus pay me more, or I don't feel you feel me valued. So that's a very narcissistic point of view, and we're a very narcissistic society, right? I mean, that's just the reality of where we are today. With everybody taking cell phones, all of a sudden everybody's famous, right? So it feeds into that narcissism. But the reality is people want to belong to something bigger than themselves. And once employers start to develop, we call it BAM, belonging, affirmation, and meaning. Once we start to just dial in on, look, you belong to our tribe is bigger than you, all of a sudden the work you do matters, right? And when the leadership and the ownership gives you that affirmation of you are in the right place, right? It's not about the perks. It's not about the more food, right? Like, even going back to health insurance, we covered all the health insurance, but we sit everybody down and teach them why. And I can't tell you when I say, hey, we paid for your health insurance, and they're like, okay, great. I go, why would we do that? Because you're nice. And I get that a lot. I'm like, okay, well, I think I'm nice, but that's not a reason to spend money if we're not going to make money. So why would we do that? And I let them get to the point where they say, oh, wait a minute. If I'm sick, I'm not producing. That's right. Right. And our organization, though we're going to take immense care of you and your family, is here to make a profit. Like, we have to do that, or the rest is not even, we can't do it.
So it sounds like, it's the skeptical side of me says, that's great if I owned a software company. There's because in my mind, there's huge profit margins. I actually have a software company. There's not huge profit margins, but I'm optimistic. We have a culture of optimism there. But do you have to, I guess maybe going back is like, you can afford to do culture right, no matter who you are, I guess is the question.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be expensive,
Nope.
How do you methodically, like, where do you start? Do you have to choose, this is the kind of culture I'm really? Are there different kinds of culture?
I always say, let the ownership choose the culture. The core values should not be a democratic process. It is a benevolent dictatorship process, because if the owner is not, if one of your core values as an organization is honesty and transparency, let's say, however, the ownership is like, I'm not having an open book environment. Well, that goes totally against that person's core value, right? And so they can't be aspirational. They need to be what the ownership is. If you are a methodical liar, that's okay. You will hire the best liars in the business, right? Because you'll attract them. What happens is people say, well, my core value is honesty, but they're liars. And then they hire all these honest people who then, quote, don't fit, right? So, and look, the margins come. And I think they come because it's a cultural thing, right? So I started my business with $54. no investors, no debt. And it was just, I was a college teacher. And so I took every penny I had and dumped it in and dumped it in. And I realized I couldn't buy my way to the top. I had to start to work on people's passion and not their time. So I don't want to buy time. Everybody is available to buy time. I want to buy the person's passion. And the way I buy that is to include them in a process where they're part of a tribe that is bigger than themselves. They're going to belong to our group. They're going to be affirmed for their work, and they're going to mean something to our group. And really, what's it cost? A pad of paper. One of our core activities we do every morning at 9 o'clock is called the 3 Happies. It literally costs a pad of Post-it note paper. And so if you can afford 5 minutes and a Post-it note paper, you can transform your organization. There's no additional cost, no buying of things. There's no trips and right now you can get there. We did it, right? I'm old Army. So boot camp transformed my life and transformed my group of friends at the time. And so on even numbered years, we pack all the employees up and we go on what we call a rockstar road trip. And it's really their little mini boot camp. I want them to have a shared experience. You know, we do this in EO. We have these shared experiences that builds a bond deeper than any foosball table I could have bought for the lobby.
So how far do you take your culture? Do you take it to your subcontractors, to your vendors, to your customers, or how do you take it out like that?
I've never taken it to vendors, right? Because they're their own organization and they've got theirs. Now, I've had to fire a couple of big clients, you know. One is, I can't say the name of the company, but they have a mouse for a mascot, right? And I had to fire them. And that was a big one because that was a huge part of our revenue. But the person we were dealing with, I shouldn't say the organization, but the person we were dealing with, we just didn't culturally fit. We didn't look at how we were going to treat people the same way. And I was like, look, you know, and they made the call. We had all these attorneys and they made the call and they said, look, you don't understand. We are, you know, this massive, you know, Fortune 10 company. And I go, that's awesome. There's 10 of you. There's only one of me. Right. So last time I checked, you need me more than I need you. And really that was to defend an employee who was getting, you know, really berated and chewed out by this executive. And I was like, we're not going to tolerate it, right? The money isn't worth it because we got many more projects to work on. And that really, you know, let that employee know, hey, I've got your back, right? You give me 110%, I'll make sure you can do your work.
So if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I hear you, you know, Piyush is great. I'm sure what he's saying makes sense, but I've got good culture in my company.
Yeah.
How do you know? I mean, you gave some examples. I think they're great. I love them. So I'm
going to give you the simplest, right? And that is go to the bathroom. And if you have a toilet paper roll that's empty, you have a real culture problem. You have a problem of somebody in your organization who, in the time of someone's greatest need, right? Like you're on the toilet and you look over and you're like, oh no, think of the panic that sets in, right? Of like, there's no toilet paper. What do I do? Somebody in your organization thought, you know, I don't care about the person who comes in after me. And for me, that's more important than the sale, the closing of XYZ, because that tells me the character when nobody's looking, right? That's my little canary in the mine. And for a long time, I never brought it up. I just used that as a litmus test of things are going to be going great or things are not going great. And then I made the mistake of starting to tell everybody about the toilet paper roll, right? And my wife got so sick of me talking about it, she just bought one of those gigantic industrial rolls. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is my ability to just look at one tiny little thing in the organization and know culturally, are we good to go? If your core value is doing more with less, and at the end of the week, you go around to desks and there's half-drank cans of soda on people's desks, that's a real window into they don't believe that. Right? Doing more with less is not a thing. So, you know, we always looked at it like a community. Had 42 full-time employees. So 1 week out of the year, it's your job to pick up the trash. And we would share the trash duties. Somebody else would be on the dish duty. Their job is to turn on the dishwasher and unload the dishwasher. And the way we looked at it was, I don't care if it's me the owner or the highest paid employee or the person answering the phone. We are all in this community together. We're going to take out the trash. We're going to clean the dishes. We're going to be part of our community. And, it helps with entitlement when they start to see, wait a minute, part of my bonus is this guy's half drink. Hey, finish the drink, get some ice. And I would hear these conversations because while it's going into the trash, nobody knows, nobody cares.
Right. No, and I think I think people in general it isn't until they know that it's affecting that it really becomes important. I mean, most people are good people. You just got to put them in a situation where they kind of, I don't know if they get credit for it, but they get rewarded for it in a I don't believe there's any selfless act. There's no selfless act in my mind. Whatever you do it because it makes you feel better. You can donate money, you feel better, so you get something out of it. And that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's the same kind of thing with culture. I think when you feel like the culture is kind of building on that, then it does and it grows. But all right. So now I'm like, okay, well, dang, I went and checked my bathroom. I have a culture problem.
Okay.
What do I do?
Yeah, and you may want to have one at home too, right? This is applicable at home as well.
I know the benevolent dictatorship is appropriate for my house, and I'm not the dictator.
And you're not the dictator.
I thought I was for a while, but I was informed I was not.
That's right. Me too. Yeah. So let's for your listeners who are driving and they get to work and they wander into the bathroom and they look over and toilet paper's gone, didn't get replaced. What's happening, right? What you have is an environment where somebody in the organization feels, hey, I'm kind of above you guys. I don't do that work, right? And then the reality is, yeah, you'd probably do that when the times got tough on anything, right? Your character is not one of caring for other people. It's thinking about yourself. And the last time I checked, as an organization, we need everybody working together to make the business move forward. But you got somebody that's just dragging their feet. They're holding on to the thing and they're saying they're pushing, but you're actually dragging them. So what's it really going to cost you, right?
Yeah.
It's going to cost you great employees. So, I owned a software company in the middle of Oklahoma, and we just don't have a lot of people working on movies and video games. And so we would have to bring these people in from either coast, and then they'd be like, okay, this was fun. I'm moving on to the next job. So this became like a survival tool of wait a minute. I can't have you guys just leave, right? We've built enough domain knowledge. Now you're actually a very productive member of our company. I can't have you bounce, right?
You're finally hitting us. You're finally getting that 3x return. So
that's right. 3, 4, 5, we're moving, right? Like this is happening. So for us, really, it was just this necessity to keep great employees. And I can tell you, over 14 years of having this business, 42 full-time employees, 500 contractors, we only turned over 12 people in that period of time. And these were young, highly compensated millennials in Oklahoma, right? So half the staff were brought in, the other half worked all over the globe. And it was just one of those situations where I have to treat people differently. So, we use the Love Languages book. There's one for business called I believe it's 5 Love Languages of Business. They remove touch, obviously, but some people like a pat on the back or a handshake or a high five. But really what we dialed into, we gave everybody a survey that's part of the book, and we quickly figured out, Chad likes public recognition, but Amy likes it sent to her house so her family can see it. And we connected with our employees based off that language. Really? How do we appreciate you in this work? Because at the end of the day, they sit at a computer and they're banging out data all day, right? It's not sexy. It's hard, strenuous work. How do we make it fun, right?
There's the time. Do you have to have these big bonus parties and these big get-togethers?
No.
It's not about that.
It's not about that. I will, however, tell you, I don't know if you have kids. I only have one, so I always tell them, buddy, if I had more than one, I don't know if you'd be my favorite. And he would, my son looks at me like, Dad, are you nuts? I'm like, hey, come on, you can only have one favorite, right? Like, I would love you. But so if you think about it that way, Christmas is just around the corner. And if you buy all of your employees the same, everybody gets a turkey, everybody gets a gift card, or heaven forbid, here is a logoed cup, right? Because trust me, your employees don't want any of that garbage, right? That would be the same as having 4 kids and buying them all. Here's your logoed family shirt, like Merry Christmas. That's not what they want. So even as something as simple as Christmas, we made it a tribal event. So I buy in the order of which they have been working for me. Doesn't matter what your revenue is, but if you've been with me from day one, that young lady gets a $4,000 purse, right? She's my day one employee, been with me for 14 years, understands the business. I can walk away, she can run it. The new person, they get a $100 gift, and it may be a pair of headphones. It may be something that they've talked about. And we just run a running list of what do all the kids in our family want, right?
Right.
Because I could give them $10,000, but that is not the same as somebody saying, I love the, Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to find a helmet for you that's signed. And you know what? The helmet may be $600. It's worth more than the $6,000 they would have gotten as a bonus, right? Because this was a thoughtful, my leader thought of me. They picked out the perfect gift for me. And so I know that's extra work, but that's how you get the X factor, right? By putting just a little effort, you get this multiplied effect.
No, I think it's a key thing. And I think the other thing in there is don't assume that what's important to you is important to them.
That's right.
I've done that. You thought, okay, I'm driven by yearly return.
That's right.
No, I would like to have a weekly conversation with you. And you're like, that's free. We can do that. But you have to, so it is finding that thing for each person. I hadn't heard of the 5 love languages for business. Of course, I've heard of the ones for the home. But it's I think that's something that's worth checking out and kind of seeing into. And a lot of this you go into in your book, but Lead Your Tribe. And I would tell you that I read your book, but I technically listened to your book, and I was about that and making sure people know that she's not convinced I know how to read. So I really appreciate it, and I thank you for the time. And gosh, now I'm gonna have to go back. We're like, when I run, go check the bathroom, see if we have toilet paper, and figure out how we start kind of working on our culture. Because I think you're right. I think it's a multiplier that is hard to quantify, but certainly used well. So yeah,
definitely. As an organization, we don't want to buy time, right?
Right.
We want to buy passion.
You don't want, even if they're paid hourly, you don't want a person who's punching a clock. You want them.
That's right.
Contributing to a plan and a program.
That's right.
That's right. Awesome. Thank you, Piyush. I know there's
you bet, Chad.
Busy man, 12 companies. I'm a little jealous of having a winery. I think that would be a good time. I'm sure it's like anything else. You make it your work. It's probably not as fun.
That's right. It's just a Tuesday.
That's right.
That's the, I now completely understand when they're like, how do you make a small fortune in the wine business? You just start with a bigger one and you'll end up with a small one. It's perfect.
That's like a horse farm. You can do the same thing.
That's right.
That's terrific. Well, thank you very much. And I look forward to catching up with you again sometime.
You bet. My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Get the Intel. We'll see you next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.